What if I told you that the most catastrophic digital heist in human history, well, it has already taken place?
Yes, the data is already gone. It is sitting in the hands of global adversaries as we speak.
Right. And the thieves are simply waiting for the invention of a single machine to read every secret we ever thought was secure.
It is a sobering reality. We're looking at a scenario where the heavy deadbolt on your front door hasn't just been, it's about to evaporate entirely.
Today's deep dive is pulling from a single, deeply unsettling source text. It is an intelligence overview titled Q-Day Approaching: The Global Race for Quantum AI and the End of Encryption.
The document outlines a geopolitical landscape that is, well, it's shifting beneath our feet. We tend to operate under this assumption that the cryptographic math shielding our infrastructure is a permanent fixture of reality.
We just take it for granted.
Exactly. But this text methodically dismantles that assumption. It lays out the precise timeline for a total paradigm collapse.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to demystify this massive, highly classified arms race for quantum supremacy. We need to decode what this means for global security and help you, the listener, understand the looming deadline that intelligence communities refer to as Q-Day.
It is critical that we start with the mechanics of the threat itself, because the source is explicitly clear that this is not speculative science fiction.
Right. It's not a movie plot.
No. It is an engineering inevitability.
So let's establish the baseline here. What exactly is Q-Day?
Q-Day represents the theoretical threshold when a quantum artificial intelligence reaches sufficient maturity and stability to break RSA encryption.
Right. RSA is basically the lock on the internet, right?
It is the cryptographic backbone of the modern digital world. It secures everything, from your personal banking sessions and encrypted messaging apps, all the way up to the command and control networks of global militaries.
Wow.
When Q-Day arrives, the mathematical fortress that protects all of that information will instantly become obsolete.
I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around the physics of this correctly, because the text, it references the physics behind quantum advantage as the actual mechanism that destroys RSA.
Yes, the physics themselves are what render classical cryptography useless.
Because I always picture RSA encryption like a massive titanium vault with a combination lock that requires a trillion different numbers. And a classical supercomputer is just a very, very fast lockpicker.
Trying combination after combination.
Exactly, which would take millions of years. But I've heard quantum computers described as trying every combination at the exact same time. Here's where I'm lost, though. If the physics behind a quantum advantage allow an AI to try every combination almost simultaneously, doesn't that mean our impenetrable vault is essentially made of glass to a quantum machine?
It is an apt analogy, yes. But the idea that a quantum computer just guesses everything at once is, well, it's a very common misconception. And it fails to capture the true, terrifying nature of the threat described in the text.
Okay, how does it actually work then?
The mechanism isn't about brute force guessing. It is about quantum interference. You see, RSA encryption relies on the fact that classical computers are terrible at factoring massive prime numbers.
Right.
It is a one-way street mathematically. It is very easy to multiply two huge primes together to make a public key, but virtually impossible to reverse engineer that massive number back into its original primes.
Because classical computers have to walk backwards step by step through the math, right?
Correct. But quantum computing leverages a phenomenon called superposition, where quantum bits qubits exist in complex states of probability. Instead of guessing, a mature quantum algorithm manipulates these probabilities.
Like bending the math itself.
Think of it like dropping pebbles into a pond. The algorithm creates a scenario where the incorrect prime factors create destructive interference. Their ways cancel each other out.
While the correct
factors create constructive interference, amplifying their wave. When the quantum state is finally measured, the wrong answers have mathematically erased themselves. The correct key is the only thing left standing.
My God, it essentially reshapes the reality of the equation, so the lock just opens itself. It bypasses the whole concept of time and sequence entirely.
Yes, rendering the millions of years of protection we thought we had instantly irrelevant. The math that currently requires planetary-scale classical computing and millennia to solve is reduced to an operation that a stable quantum AI could execute in moments.
Which explains why upgrading our current defenses with, slightly longer passwords or stronger classical algorithms is just completely futile.
It is rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The text points to this specific non-linear leap in capability to illustrate the absolute finality of Q-Day.
So we have this looming shadow of Q-Day. It's this future event, a cliff the entire digital world is walking toward. But, I mean, if this technology doesn't fully exist yet, a lot of people might assume their data is safe for now.
That is a very dangerous assumption.
Right, because you would think you could just invent uncrackable quantum encryption a year before Q-Day and secure everything, right? But the source pivots to a terrifying current reality.
The threat is not waiting in the future. It is retroactive.
Here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, terrifying. This brings us to the Store Now, Decrypt Later protocol outlined in the text.
Yes, the timeline of security has already been fundamentally compromised. The luxury of waiting to defend ourselves no longer exists because the infiltration is actively happening.
The text details how major intelligence agencies and state actors are mass harvesting heavily encrypted data right now, today. We are talking about personal financial records, diplomatic cables, classified state secrets.
Proprietary corporate algorithms.
Yeah. They are just vacuuming up all this data, fully aware that it looks like pure digital noise today, and hoarding it for Q-Day. So even if we invent uncrackable quantum encryption tomorrow, the encrypted messages and financial records we sent yesterday are already sitting on a server somewhere, just waiting to be cracked.
Exactly.
It's like a thief stealing a locked safe today simply because they know they'll buy the blowtorch tomorrow.
That is precisely the strategic imperative. It forces us to reconceptualize the very nature of intelligence gathering. Historically, espionage was an active pursuit of immediate breakthroughs.
You intercept a message, you break the code, you win the battle.
Right. You act on the intel. Store Now, Decrypt Later is an agonizing waiting game of accumulation. The adversaries recognize that breaking the code today is impossible. So the focus shifts entirely to bulk acquisition and retention.
I'm struggling with the sheer logistics of that strategy, though. Exabytes of highly encrypted data literally just look like randomized static to our current computers.
It requires immense resources.
All right, it takes massive, sprawling data centers and immense amounts of power to store that much data. Are nation-states genuinely pouring billions of dollars into hoarding warehouses full of static on the gamble that they will one day invent the blowtorch?
You have to understand, it is not viewed as a gamble within the intelligence community. The mathematical certainty of quantum advantage justifies the expenditure. They are constructing these massive storage facilities because the value of the locked data far exceeds the cost of storing it.
Even if it takes a decade to open.
The text lists the targets clearly. We are talking about the macroeconomic strategies of entire nations, the deep cover identities of intelligence assets, the blueprints for advanced next-generation weapons systems.
Wow.
The theft of these blueprints is a past tense event. The perpetrators have already committed the heist. They are simply waiting for the cryptographic key to finalize the crime.
The psychological weight of that on anyone operating in government or corporate sectors, it's staggering. If you are an intelligence operative, you have to operate under the assumption that every encrypted message you sent 2 years ago is already sitting on a rival nation's server.
Forward secrecy is an illusion in a Store Now, Decrypt Later environment. Even if you change your security protocols today, the historical data is already gone.
And the leverage that will generate when decades of encrypted global communications are suddenly rendered readable all at once, it's unprecedented.
Which means we need to look at the physical engine required to actually pull this off, to process mountains of hoarded static and manipulate those quantum probabilities.
Right. You need hardware that pushes the absolute boundaries of physics. The source goes into heavy detail about the physical infrastructure currently being built to usher in Q-Day, and it sounds like a massive engineering nightmare.
Developing the theoretical math is only a fraction of the challenge. The physical realization of a quantum supercomputer is arguably the most complex engineering feat ever attempted in human history.
Because you can't just build these machines in a standard laboratory or, a suburban server farm.
No. The text specifically mentions billion-dollar subterranean quantum supercomputers being constructed in absolute secrecy.
I understand the need for $1 billion budget, but why subterranean? I mean, is this just about hiding them from spy satellites, or is there a functional necessity for putting these massive machines deep underground?
The subterranean environment is functionally required because of the extreme fragility of quantum states. We discussed earlier how qubits exist in delicate states of probability.
Right, the superposition.
Yes. That state is easily destroyed by a phenomenon known as decoherence. The slightest interference from the outside universe causes the qubit to instantly collapse back into a basic classical state of 0 or 1, destroying the entire calculation.
When you say interference, What kind of disruption are we talking about? Like seismic activity?
Microscopic fluctuations in temperature, trace electromagnetic radiation. Even a single stray cosmic ray passing through the Earth's atmosphere can shatter a quantum calculation.
A single cosmic ray?
Yes. To prevent decoherence, these qubits must be kept in profound isolation. The cooling system's dilution refrigerators bring the operational temperature of the quantum chips down to fractions of a degree above absolute zero.
Literally colder than the vacuum of deep space.
Exactly. Building a subterranean bunker provides the massive rock shielding necessary to block cosmic rays and ambient electromagnetic noise. It is about hiding the computer from the universe itself so it can do the math undisturbed.
That is just it. The scale of that challenge is mind-bending. Constructing a facility capable of maintaining those extreme vacuum and thermal conditions while housing the massive cryogenic infrastructure needed to scale up to millions of qubits. I mean, that requires resources that are scarcely available even to sovereign governments.
Which brings up a fascinating and deeply concerning geopolitical dynamic highlighted in the text.
Right. We usually think of arms races as nation against nation, flags, militaries, treaties. But the source specifically calls out tech behemoths.
Yes. The rapid dissolving of the boundary between corporate power and state sovereignty.
Are these massive corporations acting as, like, digital arms dealers to the highest bidder? Or are they attempting to become their own sovereign powers by holding the keys to the world's data?
The text frames this as a very real crisis of leverage. During the Cold War, a project of this magnitude, like the Manhattan Project, it was purely a state-funded, government-controlled endeavor. The state had a monopoly on the resources.
But today, the specialized talent, the rare materials supply chains,
and the raw capital required to build subterranean quantum facilities often reside entirely within the private sector.
Meaning the governments are in a position where they actually depend on publicly traded companies to achieve a critical national security objective.
And the dependency is heavily skewed. If a private tech behemoth successfully reaches Q-Day before any sovereign intelligence agency, they theoretically possess the master key to the world's encrypted data.
The implications of that are staggering.
Will that corporation leverage its power to negotiate with superpowers as an equal? Will they use their decryption capabilities to subtly manipulate global markets? Or will they face immediate hostile nationalization by their host country the moment the machine turns on?
A military raid on a corporate bunker.
Exactly. The text suggests that the entity controlling the first mature quantum AI will effectively dictate terms to the rest of the globe, regardless of whether they fly a national flag or a corporate logo.
Because whoever holds the quantum key effectively holds the world hostage.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? Let's look closely at the ultimate consequence. Let's imagine the morning after Q-Day. The subterranean cooling systems are stable, the machine is turned on, the mathematical interference works perfectly, and that massive mountain of hoarded data we talked about is suddenly entirely unencrypted.
The text issues a very stark warning here. The collapse of classical cryptography will, quote, rewrite the global balance of power overnight.
The word overnight really stands out there.
The emphasis on the speed of the transition is what separates Q-Day from any historical precedent.
If a nation wakes up on Q-Day and suddenly has perfect, unencrypted access to every rival's financial records, their deepest state secrets, their grid schematics, does traditional military power even matter anymore? It sounds like an overnight checkmate.
It is the definition of an asymmetrical checkmate. To understand the severity of it, we have to contrast it with the nuclear arms race.
Okay.
Nuclear proliferation created a doctrine of mutually assured destruction. It was terrifying, certainly, but it was also a visible, gradual, and somewhat stabilizing standoff. Both sides knew roughly how many missiles the other had, and both sides knew that a first strike would result in their own annihilation.
You could literally photograph the silos from space and count the assets.
The transparency provided a bizarre form of balance. Q-Day operates on the exact opposite principle. There is no mutually assured destruction, because it is not a kinetic weapon that invites retaliation.
It's an invisible intelligence apparatus.
Yes, one that permanently neutralizes the opponent's ability to coordinate a response. The first entity to cross the finish line gains absolute informational supremacy.
If they can read your encrypted military communications in real time, your aircraft carriers and stealth bombers are essentially paralyzed.
An advanced military relies entirely on secure communications to function. If an adversary can intercept, alter, or forge the deployment orders of a naval fleet, the fleet is worse than useless. It becomes a liability.
And the economic devastation can be enacted without firing a single shot.
Exactly. A sovereign state could subtly manipulate a rival's financial sector. They could expose decades of diplomatic blackmail, or quietly rewrite the code governing critical civilian infrastructure. The global balance of power isn't just tilted, it is instantly centralized into the hands of a single victor.
And the most unnerving part is the uncertainty of the timeline. I mean, Q-Day could be a decade away, or an intelligence agency might be fine-tuning the cryogenics in an underground bunker right this second. It's that heavy click of the deadbolt locking, only to reveal that the door is actually made of paper.
It forces a total reimagining of what security means in an era where computational power scales vertically, rather than linearly.
Let's synthesize the journey we've taken today. We started with the dense physics of quantum advantage, moving past that myth of just guessing everything at once, to understand how quantum states manipulate probability to shatter the math behind RSA encryption.
And we uncovered the immediate, chilling reality of the store now, decrypt later strategy, realizing that the greatest digital heist in history has already occurred, and the data is just waiting in the dark.
All of it driven by an unprecedented arms race playing out deep underground, where states and tech behemoths are pouring billions into isolating supercooled machines from the very fabric of the universe itself, hurtling toward Q-Day.
A deadline that will arrive without a press conference, instantly rendering current global security obsolete.
For you listening right now, it is a stark reminder that your understanding of digital security and privacy, that comforting little padlock icon on your browser, it's built on an RSA paradigm that intelligence agencies already view as a relic of the past.
As we process the sheer scale of this hidden conflict, the source material forces us to confront an incredibly volatile final calculation. We know the shift in power will be absolute, an overnight checkmate.
Right.
And we also know that these massive subterranean quantum facilities cannot be hidden from state-level intelligence forever.
The logistical footprint is simply too large. You can't hide a billion-dollar, super-cooled bunker from a rival nation indefinitely.
Which leaves us with a critical, deeply unsettling question regarding the threshold of war. If sovereign nations know that Q-Day will permanently rewrite global power overnight, and they know where their rivals are building these subterranean computers, how far will traditional militaries go to physically sabotage that hardware before Q-Day ever arrives?
If a nation knows they are weeks away from a digital checkmate, do they launch a kinetic strike to collapse the bunker and flip the board entirely?
It is a profound risk.
If the lock on the world's data is about to break, do you blow up the facility before they can finish the key? That is the kind of geopolitical tension that sits right on the edge of the abyss. Keep that in mind the next time you assume a digital arms race will stay confined to the digital world. Until next time, keep questioning what you think is secure.